Hello, and welcome to City Talk. Today, we are asking a question that many cities around the world are facing. Should we prioritize cyclists over cars? It's a topic that brings up strong feelings about how we want our cities to look and feel in the future. To help us understand the different sides of this issue, we have two excellent guests with us today. On one side, we have Leo, an urban planner who believes bikes are the future of urban transport. Welcome, Leo.
Good evening, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here.
And on the other side, we have Maria, a local business owner who thinks cars are still essential for our city to function. Welcome, Maria.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
We are looking forward to a constructive and interesting discussion. Leo, let's start with you. You have a few minutes to give us your opening statement.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm happy to be here to talk about this important subject. First, let's talk about the air we breathe. Our cities desperately need cleaner air. This isn't just an opinion. It's a simple fact supported by science. Cars, especially those that run on petrol or diesel, produce a significant amount of pollution. This pollution is not just bad for the planet in the long term. It is directly bad for our health right now. It causes serious health problems like asthma and other respiratory illnesses, particularly in our children and the elderly. Bicycles are a beautiful and simple solution because they produce zero pollution. Every single person who chooses to ride a bike instead of driving a car is making a positive choice for our collective environment. Just take a moment to imagine our city center with less smog, cleaner windows, and air that feels fresh to breathe. This is an achievable goal. Second, there's the huge benefit to our public health. We live in a modern world where many of us have jobs that require sitting at a desk all day, leading to a more sedentary lifestyle. Cycling is a fantastic form of moderate exercise. It's easy for many people to fit into a daily routine. You can cycle to work, to the shops, or just for pleasure in the park. When more people in a community cycle regularly, the whole community becomes more active and healthier. This means fewer people suffering from preventable health problems like heart disease and obesity. This in turn means less pressure on our doctors, our clinics, and our hospitals. It's a clear win-win situation for individual citizens and for our public healthcare system. Finally, I want to talk about what prioritizing bikes does for our communities. It makes our streets safer and much more pleasant for everyone, not just for the cyclists themselves. With fewer cars moving at high speeds through our neighborhoods, there's significantly less noise pollution. Our streets become quieter, more peaceful places. They also become much safer. This is especially important for our most vulnerable residents, like children and elderly people. Parents will feel more comfortable letting their children play outside or walk to school. Our streets can transform from being just routes for traffic into being real places for people. We can have more public space for outdoor cafes, for park benches, for small markets, for people to simply meet and talk. This helps to build a stronger, more connected, and friendlier community. I want to be very clear about one thing. This is not about a war on cars. It's not about banning them completely or taking away everyone's car. It's about redesigning our cities to be for people, not just for traffic. It's about creating a better, healthier balance where walking and cycling are safe, easy, and enjoyable choices for many of our daily trips. This change will ultimately make our city a better place for all of us to live.
Thank you, Leo, for that detailed opening. Maria, we now turn to you for your opening statement.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Leo, for your points. I want to say that I also want a green and healthy city. That's a goal we all share. However, I believe we have to be realistic about the economy and the practical daily lives of the people who live and work in our city. I'm a small business owner. My shop is located in the city center, and I depend on my car for my business to survive. It's not a luxury for me. I use my car for making important deliveries to customers, for picking up heavy supplies from wholesalers, and for going to the bank. Without easy access to my car, my business simply cannot function efficiently. Many of my customers also drive to my shop. They often buy heavy or large items that they cannot carry on a bus or a bicycle. If they cannot find a place to park nearby, they will not come. They will simply go to the big shopping centers outside the city, where parking is free and abundant. We need policies that support our local businesses, not policies that make it harder for us to compete and survive. Also, we have to remember that not everyone can ride a bicycle. For many people, it's a privilege to be physically able to cycle everywhere. What about our elderly citizens who may have mobility issues? What about families with very young children, with babies in strollers and all the bags that come with them? And what about people with disabilities who need a specially adapted car to move around independently? For these groups, a car is not a choice, it's a necessity. It gives them the freedom and independence to be an active part of our city. Making it harder to drive and park means making life much harder for the most vulnerable people in our community. And let's be practical about the simple tasks of daily life. Can a parent really do the big weekly grocery shopping for a family of 4 on a bicycle? It's just not realistic. What happens when you need to transport a new piece of furniture you just bought, or take your sick dog to the vet? Cars are absolutely essential for these kinds of tasks that keep our households running smoothly. And finally, we must consider our local weather. In our city, it rains frequently, and it often snows heavily in the winter. On those days, most people will not want to cycle to work or school. They will need their cars to stay safe and dry. If we have removed roads and parking, we will just create terrible traffic jams on those days. So I want to state that I'm not against bike lanes. I think they can be a good addition to our city when they are planned carefully. But we need a balance. We need a sensible plan that works for everyone. For cyclists, for drivers, for pedestrians, and for business owners. We should focus our investment on improving public transport for everyone and creating some bike lanes where it makes sense. But we must do this without punishing drivers or harming the local economy that we all depend on.
Thank you, Maria. You've both given us a lot to think about. Leo, Maria makes a very strong point about the economy and the survival of small businesses. How can a city support its local shops if it reduces parking and car access?
That's a very common worry, and I understand it completely. Business owners are rightly concerned about any change that could affect their customers. But the evidence from dozens of cities across the world that have made their centers more bike-friendly shows something interesting, and often the opposite of what people fear. When streets become more pleasant for walking and cycling, with less noise and traffic, people tend to spend more time in that area. They enjoy the atmosphere. They might not buy as much in one single trip as a driver might, but they come back more often during the week. A person on a bike or on foot is much more likely to stop and look in a shop window than a person driving past in a car. It actually creates a more vibrant and ultimately more successful local economy. It encourages browsing, spontaneous purchases, and a sense of community.
I can see how that might be true for a coffee shop, a small gift shop, or a bookstore, Leo. I can understand that argument for certain types of businesses, but my business sells kitchen equipment. People come to my shop specifically to buy heavy food mixers or large sets of pots and pans. They are not going to carry that home on a bicycle. My customers need to be able to park their car, come in, pick up their heavy items, and go. And what about tradespeople? Plumbers, electricians, carpenters. They need their vans full of heavy tools and materials. Where are they supposed to park? Also, you talk about evidence from other cities. But our city is not like other cities. We have very steep hills in some neighborhoods and, as I said before, very unpredictable weather. It's not always pleasant to be outside. Your vision of a sunny, bike-friendly plaza sounds lovely, but it does not feel practical for the reality of living and working here, especially in February.
Those are very valid and practical challenges, Maria. But they're problems that can be solved with intelligent planning. They're not impossible to overcome. For deliveries and for tradespeople, we can design special loading and unloading zones. These zones can have specific time limits, for example 15 or 30 minutes, ensuring that essential commercial services can still operate effectively. The goal isn't to eliminate all vehicles from the city center. The goal is to reduce the number of unnecessary private car trips, like a single person driving a short distance to work alone. Think about it. If we can encourage just 30% of the people who are making short, solo trips to cycle or walk instead, the roads will be much clearer. That actually makes those essential car trips, like your customer picking up a heavy mixer, or the plumber needing to park his van, faster and much less frustrating, because there's far less traffic to sit in.
Maria, what do you think about that specific idea? That reducing the overall number of cars could actually help those people who genuinely need to drive?
In theory, it sounds like a good idea. I understand the logic. But my concern is with the practical reality of making that change. The city government might remove 100 parking spaces to build a new, wide bike lane, and they will promise us all that the traffic will get better in the future. But what if it doesn't? What happens in the first 6 months? My customers will not wait for a long-term urban theory to work out. They will be angry that they cannot park, and they will immediately go somewhere else. It's a very big risk for small businesses like mine. I think a much safer and better solution is to invest more money in our public transport system. We need more reliable buses that come more often, and maybe a new tram line. That would take many cars off the road without making life difficult for those who still need them.
I completely agree that public transport is a huge and essential part of the solution. These are not separate ideas. They work together as a team. A great public transport system, combined with safe and convenient cycling and walking paths, creates a complete network of attractive alternatives to using a private car. But we have to remember that buses still get stuck in the same traffic jams as cars. That's why dedicated bus lanes and dedicated, protected bike lanes are both part of creating a more efficient and reliable transportation system for everyone.
Let's move on to the issue of safety. Leo, you mentioned it in your opening as a benefit, but Maria, some drivers and pedestrians feel that more cyclists on the road can actually be more dangerous.
Exactly. I see it every single day from my shop window. I see cyclists going straight through red lights, or weaving between cars, or riding quickly on the pavement where people are trying to walk. It can be very stressful and dangerous for drivers, and especially for pedestrians. If we are going to encourage thousands of new people to start cycling, we also need much more education and better enforcement of the rules for cyclists. The safety of our streets has to be for everyone, not just one group.
I absolutely agree that everyone, without exception, should follow the rules of the road. That includes drivers, cyclists, and pedestrians. But it's important to understand why cyclists sometimes break the rules. Often, it's because they do not feel safe. A cyclist might ride on the pavement because the road is full of large, fast-moving cars, and there's no protected bike lane to give them a safe space. The single best way to improve both safety and behavior is to build proper, physically separated cycling infrastructure. When cyclists have their own safe, designated space, they use it correctly. This greatly reduces the potential for conflicts with both cars and pedestrians, making the streets safer for all.
We're running out of time, so I'd like to ask you both for a brief closing statement to summarize your positions. Leo, you can go first.
To conclude, my vision for our city is one that puts its people first. I want to live in a city that's healthier, cleaner, and more socially connected. Prioritizing cycling is a powerful, affordable, and proven way to move towards that better future. It directly reduces the pollution that harms our health and our planet. It encourages daily physical activity, making us a healthier and more active society. And it reclaims our streets from noisy traffic, turning them into vibrant community spaces where people can thrive. This is not about taking something away from drivers. It's about giving everyone, drivers included, a better, more pleasant, and more efficient city to live and work in. It's a smart investment in our collective well-being for the long run.
Thank you, Leo. And Maria, your final thoughts?
In the end, this entire discussion must be about balance and finding practical solutions that work in the real world. I want a clean and healthy city, just as much as anyone else. But we cannot and should not ignore the real, daily needs of our citizens and our local businesses. Cars provide an absolutely essential service for many people in our community. They are essential for families with children, for the elderly, for workers who need their vans to do their jobs, and for shoppers who keep our local economy alive. We should absolutely invest in better, more reliable public transport, and we can add some well-planned, sensible bike lanes where they fit best. But we must do it carefully. We must do it without punishing drivers for needing their vehicles, and without causing unintentional harm to our local economy. A truly great city is a city that works for everyone, not just for the people who are young and fit enough to ride a bike everywhere.
Leo, Maria, thank you both so much for sharing your different but equally passionate perspectives today. It has been a very informative and respectful discussion. We've heard a strong case for a greener, people-focused future from Leo, who emphasized the clear health and community benefits of prioritizing cycling. And we've heard a passionate call for a practical, balanced approach from Maria, who reminded us of the very important economic and accessibility needs of many people in our city. Clearly, the debate over the future of our streets is complex, and there are no simple or easy answers. It requires careful thought and listening to all members of the community. We hope this conversation has given all of you at home a lot to think about. Thank you for joining us on City Talk. Good evening.